Hello, I'm Peter Bell, and I'm here with Mike Cathro of Happy Creek Minerals. Hello, Mike.
Hi, Peter. How are you today?
I'm okay. A little rusty at the interview thing here, but good to be back at it. A
hmm
friend put Happy Creek on my radar, and I liked what I saw. Uh, Nice to talk to you here about the company, run through a pitch deck.
Great. Yeah. Well, thanks for having me.
Pleasure. So, I've known you for a few years and stuff, and first time I've seen you in an executive role for a junior, too. I like that.
Yeah. Well, it's a new thing for me. I was happy being on the board, but it seems like there's a position for me as CEO, at least on a temporary basis. So happy to help out and help run the company.
Put the shoulder to the wheel, Mike. We
hmm
we need the leadership in the exploration business right now.
Yeah. hmm
And so BC is a jurisdiction where you've had lots of experience. I've seen your name in all kinds of different places. Former government geologist and stuff encountered in some
Yeah, yeah.
right.
No, I've been around for a while. I grew up in a mining family. I was born in Yellowknife and lived in the north, and my father was was a geologist, and so I kind of followed in his footsteps and worked in different places, and including the BC government for 17 years, and I've been back in industry for about 10 or so, 10 or 11 years now. So yeah, it's exciting. Lots of exciting opportunities.
What a 10-year period to be among the juniors, hey? It's been pretty tough. 2011 market highs, right, all the way through a brutal cycle.
Yeah. Well, I left the government. I quit in I think the end of 2008, which was kind of poor timing, but in some ways it was good as well. That things actually bounced back pretty well
Yeah.
in the mining industry after the big downturn. So no, it's been good and lots and lots of opportunities out there.
Yeah. And so, just from a high level, looking at this intro slide, copper, gold, tungsten, lots to talk about there,
Mhm.
and tier one jurisdictions, again, lots to talk about there. I'm sure we could spin our wheels just on this front slide for a while, but I, I guess being in BC makes a lot of sense, and having a bit of diversification commodity wise. I know there's a lot of stuff in Happy Creek here, and
Yeah,
these land
yeah.
packages you have. There's lots of hidden surprises, I think.
Yeah, so I mean, we're kind of focused on what we know, and I've lived in BC most of my life, and the other folks in the company have as well. So we've got lots of experience. The founder of the company is David Bland, and he built the company up starting in about 2004, and so he's been acquiring the projects and just, exploring and making discoveries since 2004. The company went public, I think it was in 2006. And so, yeah, so it's had a lot of years of exploration in BC. And, I came in liking the projects and liking the approach about 2012 and came on the board at that time. But I've known Dave for longer. And as I was impressed with what he was able to do and with the projects that he's able to acquire. So yeah, it's not easy to acquire a property package like this
Yeah,
in BC. It takes time and takes a lot of effort, and not only that, we've made discoveries. So,
yeah, well done.
so that's good. So everything we have is owned 100%,
Yeah,
and so that's again a little bit of a rarity, I think, in the business. That everything. We've got properties. We're not earning in on anything, right? And so yeah.
good for you. Thanks.
And yeah, the diversity of the metals is a little bit of a, I mean, copper gold often goes together in BC. Tungsten is a little bit of an odd one, but that's just totally based on the luck of discovery, right? Like so Dave had found some tungsten occurrences and staked a whole bunch of ground and found more and developed a resource eventually.
Yep.
I mean, you have to sort of go with what you're finding, right?
Yep.
So tungsten is definitely a commodity that most people don't understand very well, but it is valuable, and it does and it does have a pretty strong reason for investing in it.
And a lot of history too. It's easy to overlook tungsten carbide and the real industrial, military, strategic significance of that one on a historical basis.
Yeah, and Western North America has historically been an important tungsten producer
Yeah.
between deposits in Nevada, the Cantung mine in on the Northwest Territories border,
Yep.
and then also mines in BC down at Salmo at the old Canex mine down there. So
Wow.
there is a history of tungsten production, but it suffers from like so many of these strategic metals, this sort of flooding of the market by China, and difficult to compete with the Chinese production. So they apparently they're at like 85% of the primary world production right now, and there's no production, zero production in North America, primary metal. And it's critical in so many of the things that we do. All drill bits,
Yeah.
cutting tools, all those kind of things are all dependent on tungsten. And there's no substitution, right?
Yeah.
That's the other thing, is that tungsten is not easily substituted for. So
And there's something about the supply chains that's really interesting too. Like when you have something that's so critical, strategic, whatever word, um, this, and we're not mining it, we, but we're buying the products that use it. We come to take for granted, and there's something there around it being hidden from us that we take it for granted in a way,
yeah, yeah.
and it works well until it doesn't, and then
Exactly. Yeah. And there's other commodities that are very similar. The rare earth elements, niobium is produced mostly in Brazil. There's a lot of elements that we don't produce in North America, but they're strategic for our industry and for our security.
and some people talk about gold, undersupply of gold in some ways. It's maybe a little harder to understand that, but with all the above ground stocks, monetary storage uses, and copper as well too. People talking about shortage of supply, looking forward, where's it going to come from? So a lot of the same issues, well, across the mining space, and
Hmm.
yeah, nice to see you stick a flag in them.
Yeah. Yeah. So do you want to get going? Should I
Let's,
start running
please.
through here? Yeah.
Thank
So
you.
I've been in the job for 6 weeks or so. This is
All right.
standard forward-looking statement, cautionary statement. So this is a little rough and a little rough and ready, and it hasn't got the best graphics, but it's a good start. So why would anybody want to invest in Happy Creek Minerals? I mean, number one, we're hunting for giant deposits, right? And I learned early in my career that if you want to sell your company or sell a project to a major company, which is the best way to, that's the best business plan for junior mining companies. You better find something, you better discover something that they want, right? So that's why
So
we're
simple.
looking.
Sounds so
Yeah,
simple.
well, it does sound simple. It's never easy, right? It's certainly not easy. So that's why we're primarily focused on the giant porphyry deposits in BC.
Yep.
We have discovered these high-grade Fox tungsten deposits. We've been talking about that. We have resources on them. It's a little bit of a mismatch in the company, the tungsten going with the copper and gold, but it is what it is. We've got them. We've got the tungsten deposits, so they're valuable. We got to keep driving them forward.
And the jurisdictions match too, which is
Yep, yep. It's all in the same. Like I live in Kamloops, and
yeah,
all of these projects are within a 2-hour drive of home, right? And they're
beautiful.
all a drive, within about a 5-hour drive of Vancouver, right? So we know this. We know this jurisdiction. We know how to get permits. We know how to get support from the communities, and we know the geology and the exploration potential. I was the regional geologist in Kamloops for I don't know what 5 years or something. So I'm pretty familiar with most of the country around here. So they're 100% owned land packages with great infrastructure, and hopefully I can show you that in some of my slides. We've got very large databases, lots of untested targets.
Yeah,
We've got a very good management team, and we've got permits and plans in place for drilling for this year. So
nice.
permits are becoming harder and harder to get, and so we've been kind of working in the background and focused on getting that. The company is, I think it's undervalued. It's 122.6 million shares at about 8 cents right now, undiluted. We do have cash in the bank. We've got about $400,000 hard and 900,000 flow through for this year. We've always had a very low G&A burn, and the management is well invested in the company. I think together we just the board owns about 9.5%, and we also have I think it's 9.4% at Resource Capital Funds, and the rest of it is pretty much retail.
When did the RCF come in?
They came in for the tungsten. I can't remember how
Okay.
long ago. Quite a while, maybe 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, we are doing kind of a bit of a internal navel gazing strategic review right now. Dave unfortunately has had to step back for personal reasons, health reasons in the family, but I'm going to step in and help out as CEO for as long as necessary. So we're looking for a very good, dynamic CEO to take this company forward. And we're also considering, all the options with the company or with the projects, from continuing our own exploration to farming them out to merging, whatever, right? Like we're quite open. We're not married to any of these things,
Let's
but
make a deal. It's a let's make a
yeah,
deal kind of
yeah,
business. It
yeah.
really is.
Yeah. So you know, um, in terms of the management, so there's myself, geologist. Walter Sedgeworth is our chair. He's got a long history in mining. He was the president of Homestake Mining and also the president of Westman. So again, great
Wow.
experience in mining worldwide, but also in BC. Dave Bland, the founder of the company, who I mentioned, he's an engineer and a great prospector, a great explorer. And we're lucky to continue to have Dave on the board and as our chief geologist, so he can do the things that he does really well, which is prospecting and finding ore, right? Roger Gray's another director, more on the financial side in Toronto. And then Sarah Weber just came onto the board about the same time as I took over, and she is a geologist and has an MBA, and her real focus is on sort of community relations, Aboriginal relations, and she's been helping us with that for more than a year now. So we're lucky to have her. And then we upped our game on the governance side as well. We added Kathy Love, who's an experienced corporate secretary, to help with a lot of the governance stuff.
And that's a 5-person board, it looks like there.
5-person board plus a part-time CFO and part-time corporate secretary. Yeah.
Headquarters in Kamloops.
Headquarters in Vancouver
Okay.
with a virtual office that nobody seems to attend, right? So, so yeah, we don't, we have one other geologist full time, and then the rest of the company operates through consultants.
And Mr. Bland, cool to hear continuing to be involved a field side. New
Yeah,
idea generation slash program design, the whole thing, or
yeah. I mean, so like I said, Dave's a prospector and an explorer, right? Like he's an engineer, but he's a real prospector at heart, right? And
okay.
he's the guy that's found all of our deposits and acquired
Yep.
all the properties. And so that's really what he does well. And company, junior company administration, promotion, those kind of things. Um, you know, there's other people that can do that, and it's not necessarily what Dave does well. I mean, he's done a great job on it all these years, but it's better to get him to step back and take on more of the technical stuff again. The company's been in existence for 15 years. It's never been rolled back. He's minded the pennies very carefully. So you know, you know,
Prospectors,
yeah,
and not
money.
usual to see a PN prospector either. That's an interesting combination. I can just imagine how much of a do-it-yourself kind of guy he must be.
Yeah, well, and I mean, I use the word prospector, in a really good way, right? I mean, prospector
Explorationist,
is
what a
somebody who finds prospects, right?
yep,
And
absolutely.
and Dave happens to have an engineering degree. That doesn't mean he's not a good explorer, right? So anyway, so he's definitely going to be doing the things that he does well. The other thing we did recently in the fall was we brought in Charlie Gregg, who's a longtime friend of mine, and he's a porphyry expert. He's actually being awarded with the Spud Hustis Award for the Discovery of the Year in BC tomorrow night.
Well done.
So he was responsible for the discovery of the saddle deposits for
Yep.
GT Gold, and he lives in Penticton. So again, close to the projects, and he brings quite a team of young people that have all sort of earned their stripes on the GT Gold project, and so we're really lucky to have them coming in and helping us.
Ah,
Again, to kind of take it to the next level, right? We've got these projects, we've done good exploration, we've discovered stuff, but now we've got to take it to the next level. So that's going to be partly Charlie's job,
the
and he.
markets, Mike, the markets are screaming at you to do that. The price signals on everything is saying bring it forward. Anything you can do, invest in it now.
Yeah,
That's what
yeah,
rising prices and all-time highs in copper. That's
yeah.
bring forward the investment. We need it.
Yeah, so I mean, we've got the copper team in place, right?
That's
And
great.
we've got the project. So Alex Walcott is another guy that we're bringing in, and I've
Yeah.
worked with him before, and Charlie has worked with him on GT Gold, and together they found that
Yeah.
Saddle North porphyry copper. So we're going to hopefully you know bring the band together and apply their technology to our projects now.
Great
We're
names in
also
BC. A lot of respect here. Yeah. Well
Yeah,
done.
and then the other thing that we're doing is, the Highland Valley has had a lot of academic study recently, and with the involvement of tech, and so we're starting to apply again with Charlie and Alex's, help, a lot of that research that came out of this study by this group called CMIC, which is a Canadian Mining Innovation Council or something like that. They did a big study over, I think, 4 or 5 years on Highland Valley.
Nice.
We're going to apply that, and then the Mineral Deposit Research Unit at UBC is also starting a porphyry vectors project to help locate, either districts or deposits within districts. How do you vector towards the best deposits in those districts? So we're going to be part of that as well, along with, a whole bunch of majors and other junior companies. And so again, we're kind of taking our exploration technology kind of up a notch or two.
Well, and when you have the buy-in from the majors who are sitting on the inventory of unmined but drilled off deposits, you have this whole universe of projects that you can do the testing work for these academic techniques to
Mhm.
see which ones, what's the efficacy, this setting, that setting. It's a statistician's dream,
Yeah,
really. Like,
yeah, no, I mean, coming up with practical techniques that are going to result in discovery. I mean,
yeah.
it's one thing to do academic research, another thing to make it practical and useful for exploration. So that's really what the focus of that Porphyry Vectors project is.
Good for you. I haven't heard of any other juniors joining that, so good for you for being
Yeah, I
involved in
think there's
that.
about 14 or 15 companies. There's all the
Yep.
big majors are in it, Rio Tinto, Freeport, groups like that. So yeah, we're glad to be able to be part of a consortium like that. We're also, as I mentioned with Sarah Weber, we're kind of upping our game in the permitting and community initiatives. So we've got some negotiations going on with the Inlakuplum Nation and Cannon Lake First Nations around exploration agreements. And that's taking a little while, but it also helps with our sort of buy-in on the projects and helps with our permitting going forward.
Yeah.
So
And makes you investable to the market, Mike, too.
Yes,
Really
exactly. Plus
sorry.
and the potential partners that we deal with, right? Whether it's a major company, they want to see that we've actually got good relations before they'll come in, right? So that's.
Imagine if you didn't. Imagine if you just went in there and just made enemies,
Mhm.
and then you found something.
Yeah, yeah,
That would be a mistake.
yeah. So why would we work in BC? I mean, number one, we talked about, we kind of know it, but over half the copper in Canada is produced in BC. It's home to some of the largest resources, really worldwide, for copper and gold, especially KSM, Shaft Creek, Prosperity, Galore. These are big deposits, and there's big mines in operation. And we're also seeing the industry switch from conventional open pits to going underground. And so New Afton mine at Kamloops is a good example. It's the largest underground metal mine in Canada. I think it's 14,000 tons a day underground block cave. And Red Chris is studying, that's Newcrest, is studying the going to a block cave underground at Red Chris as well. So, we've got both the higher grade underground bulk tonnage operations and the open pits. So, we've got a history in BC of mining these kind of deposits, and we think they're permittable going forward.
And a shout out to Gold Mountain Mines, new issue ticker GMTN. A nice, aggressive group of younger guys, and they've got a toll milling story that's getting some real traction right out of the gate. So as these old mines have new life, right?
Hmm.
What other opportunities are created for smaller players, satellite deposits? Things are
Yeah,
opening up.
yeah, no, they're doing a good job. I'm impressed with how quickly they're moving forward. Um, so just a quick geology lesson. Most of the deposits in BC, the big porphyry copper deposits, not all, but most, are in either the Stikine terrain, which is the light green on this map, or the Quinella terrain, which is or Quinel terrain, which is the darker green. And so, that's where our deposits are, and I'll talk about these in more detail, the Highland Valley and the Silver Boss projects. That's where you want to be if you're looking for giant deposits in BC. So, this is kind of what our hopes and dreams are, is finding something like the Highland Valley mine, the Highland Valley copper mine. This is the largest metal mine in Canada. It's a massive operation. It's been in operation since 1962. So full disclosure, I'm 59 years old, and this mine started when I
Yeah,
was born, right?
yeah.
So
Look
that
at
gives
that.
you, and I've got a few wrinkles, right? So they've produced over 2 billion tons of ore from 7 pits since 1962. And the tailings are almost all of them are in that pond there that's 10 kilometers long. The Valley Pit is one of three main pits it's probably the main pit that they're mining from now. It's about 3 kilometers across there, you can see. So this is elephant country, right? This is why we're so focused on our Highland Valley project. Teck is studying a mine life extension to 2040. So they have lots of ore, but they also have a huge throughput, a huge mill to feed,
Yep.
and it has a capacity of 145,000 tons a day of ore, right? And they've been averaging in recent years anywhere from 0.28 to 0.3% copper, right? So it's a massive operation, and very profitable right now. I mean, the price of copper is up, in the high $4 range, and in the last quarter, first quarter 2021, they made a profit of 161 million. So it's almost $3 million a day U.S. profit. So they can be profitable, especially when copper price is really high. So it is very low grade, but the stripping ratio is low. They have very good metallurgy. They produce a very clean, saleable concentrate, and that's what we're looking for. Obviously, the infrastructure is good. They got the railways just in the valley. That's the Thompson River Valley. You can see kind of in the distance there. Both national railways go through there. Power lines, highways, everything. Communities that are supportive. So we think that our goal should be a standalone operation. And if we find something smaller, then it may be saleable to Teck as sort of marginal throughput. But really, we need to find a standalone operation.
What about the Golden Mountain story, as a market success and even potentially a technical operational success, smaller scale blend?
Yeah,
Maybe it's different for a gold versus a copper story a little bit. The scales are kind of the numbers.
yeah. So Gold Mountain, they have a mine permit already. It was a past producing small mine, so they have that advantage, right? But my view is that if you're going to permit a project in BC, the cost and the time that it takes, you better go for something big,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Because you know and we've talked about this with our tungsten. The costs are not particularly any much cheaper to permit a small mine than a large mine, right? So
Yep.
the smaller the mine that you permit, the more risk there is if you're putting a whole bunch, millions of dollars out in permitting and environmental studies. So I think that's why when you look at it, the mines that have been developed in BC in the last 5 to 10 years are all big, right? I mean, there's not too many small mines that have been permitted. And if you want something of consequence, you better go for a big project. Um,
Well, and it
so
has
that's my
implications
view.
for your exploration. It has implications for what you do in exploration. And
Yeah,
going after
and
something big is probably the right place to
yeah,
start.
or something extremely high grade, right? And then you can get away with a small mine project, right? So
But to
so
push the standalone theme. Okay.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah. So my last job was with Skeena Resources, right? And so they're focused on two very high grade projects, SNIP and Eskay Creek, and those, I mean Eskay as they propose it now, it could be large, relatively large. 5,000 tons a day is what they're talking about, right? Of open pit. This is 145,000 tons a day, right? So I mean the advantage of Eskay is that it's very high grade. Um, so there's those kind of numbers to think about always, right? So our Highland Valley project, it's 240 square kilometers or 24,000 hectares. We adjoin the south side of the mine. So the picture I just showed was the Valley Pit, which is right here. The mill is just kind of between Lornex.
Yep.
Those are the two main pits. These two pits here, Highmont, are in operation. They're about 6.5 kilometers from the edge of our property. And then Teck is also working on reopening mining at the Bethlehem pits up here, right? So this is our property in kind of the orange color, wrapping around Teck, and then also to the sort of the pale green color around the outside are claims that are held by other people, right? Other operators. So basically, we're the kind of the second most important player in the district, right? After Teck. So we've our exploration. I mean, I think I mentioned Dave has been acquiring this property, with multiple deals over years and years and years,
Yep.
and exploring. But really, the focus of the company's exploration has been Zone 1 and Zone 2. We've drilled,
Mm.
I think, more than 95% of our drilling has been on these two deposits. And Dave, they were from scratch discoveries, and so the rest of the property we've done, a little bit of work. We did two drill holes over here at this PIM target last fall, but really a lot of this is sort of historic exploration and historic prospects that have been discovered. So we've got a lot of room to move. The In terms of working here, it's basically a flat, sort of rolling hill country. It's been clear cut from one end to the other. It's got power lines. It's industrial logging and
Yeah.
industrial mining, right? This is,
Yeah.
you couldn't be in a better place. It's well away from the towns. Obviously there's environmental concerns. You always have to be, cognizant of, with creeks and lakes and things like that. But this is a big property. There's about roughly 20 kilometers from one side to the other and 20 kilometers north south as well.
And when you drilled PIM, that was truck. That wasn't
Everything's
helicopters.
on the ground.
Yep.
Yeah, everything's on the ground. We don't use helicopters here. It's all, we drilled that in November, December. So that's the other nice thing about this area is that it's dry and you don't get a lot of snow, so you can operate all year round.
Wow.
Yeah. Again, I mean, I met Dave when I was still working for the government, and I loved what he was doing. And so
Yeah.
when I left the government, I started to invest in the company. Um, and
It's a
obviously,
it's a beautiful land package, right? And just to see the little thread connecting the two blocks at the bottom and the south there, so transferring land credits and assessment credits, keeping it
yeah,
in good standing. All these the
yeah,
subtle things of how it was put together. It's like
yeah.
very a lot of respect for this map. It's yeah, I like it a lot.
Yeah, and so we've got our eyes on a few other little properties here and there, but it is what it's a great package already, right? And it's within it's within hauling distance to the mill if that's
Yeah,
where we end up going, right?
yeah,
I mean, this is all conceptual, but it's downhill
yep,
from our deposits to the mill, so it could be potentially conveyor or overland, whatever. But we're still focused on finding something big that's a standalone deposit that could support its own mill.
So, and the only I might ask, like, such a large land package, risk of getting lost?
Yeah, I mean, the risk is that there's too much to look at, right? There's too many targets,
Yeah,
and so you have to be really careful about prioritizing what you're doing, right? So again, that's where we brought in Charlie Gregg and his crew to kind of give us a bit of a broader view on the property and make sure that we're not missing anything obvious. And so that's kind of what they're working on right now. And this summer we'll get out on the ground and we'll do a bit of
awesome,
follow up. But
awesome.
yeah, yeah.
Stepping back and Walcott to follow up mag. I guess
Mhm.
that's localized, but has there been any property wide coverage? That
No, no. So we have got airborne magnetics over the entire property now, well, almost the entire property. So the west side was done a couple of years ago, and then we just flew the east side, that what we call Roteria, in February. So just a few months ago. So we're just getting the results, the final results back on that, and mag is probably the most useful general geophysical tool that you can use. And what's interesting about this area is that it's almost all covered by glacial till, right? So there's only a few little outcrops here and there, right? Like in the creek gullies and on ridges and things like that. So there's a lot that we don't know, and so you have to use these more advanced techniques. So we use IP, induced polarization. We use silt sampling in the creeks. We use airborne magnetics, and again, going back to some of these academic studies, we kind of know what the signatures are with the other deposits
yeah,
because they've been published recently. And so, we can look for those same kind of signatures on our property.
yep.
Um, I don't know if that explains it well, but this year our focus is going to be up in the general area of Zone 1 and Zone 2, but stepping out away from the areas that we've drilled.
I don't hear a lot of BC people talking about magnetotellurics, but seems more popular
Yeah,
elsewhere.
yeah, MT. There's a few techniques that people are using to look for conductivity, kind of at depth,
Yeah,
and look for structures, and yeah, so that might be something we need to use down the road. But we've done the mag now, and let's squeeze as much out of the mag as we can,
absolutely.
right? So yeah,
And digital
so
topo, do you have that's
yeah, we
another
have
thing.
LiDAR, digital topo. Yeah,
Cool.
yeah. So that
Good.
again helps us with the structure, and it also helps us understand how deep the glacial till can be, because obviously we want to be looking in a place that's 5 meters of glacial till rather than 50, right? And it changes over short distances here. So again, just a quick geology lesson. Not to belabor it, but the entire map here is essentially what's called the Gishon Creek batholith. The Craigmont mine, which was an underground copper producer that operated, I think, until the early 80s or late 70s. It was a skarn. Anyway, it's at the south end, and then the Highland Valley copper mines are all up kind of here in the center of the batholith.
Yeah.
And the important thing with this map is that the best deposits, the biggest tonnages of copper ore in the whole district are in the what we call the central phases of the batholith, which are these yellow and light green and light orange. So this is the Bethsaida, Skeena, and Bethlehem phases. So that's so far what's been discovered. That's where you want to be, right? Those are the best. That's the best sort of hunting ground. And our zone 1 and our zone 2 are in those central facies or central phases of the intrusion, as is our PIM
Yep.
prospect. And so, for whatever reason, those rocks are more felsic, so they're lighter in color. They have more quartz and more feldspar. Um, they have a lower magnetic signature and they have a lower density signature. So in this particular batholith, that's where you want to be. There's many other copper prospects and old mines elsewhere, but the big ones so far have been found in this central facies.
And that geological mapping that's done based on the geophysics
It's a combination of,
combination. Yeah.
yeah. It's mostly actually interpretation from outcrop and drill hole results. So this is a government map, and
Yep.
it's taken decades to sort of come up with this picture.
Yeah.
But you can also see it in the magnetics as well, and it's really I don't know. Maybe I'll just advance. I don't know if I included that map. I guess I didn't. I could pull it up later if you like, Peter. But
No, it's
Essentially,
okay. But
the
it's
center of the yeah, the center of the batholith is lower in magnetics, and there's some very strong linear features that are pronounced magnetic lows that the deposits are associated with, and we have those on our property down here.
nice. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's just kind of, sort of the bigger picture side of it. So, we have had some really good drilling results on zone 1 and zone 2. I'll just go back and show you again where those are. They're kind of right on the edge of our property
Yep.
adjoining tech. And so I can't remember how many holes it is. Probably about 50 holes have been drilled. You can see all the collars, maybe more, maybe it's 60 or 70 holes have been drilled there. Zone 1 is quite linear, and it's open to depth. And we've had results like 236 meters of 0.27 copper, 200 or 77 meters of 0.31, 95 meters of 0.65. So these are grades and thicknesses that are comparable to what's being mined at. I'm certainly not saying that it's economic, but we're in the ballpark, right? For what you need to find. And then at zone 2, which over here, which is only a couple kilometers away,
Yep.
it's still fairly linear, but we've stepped out and we have hit copper around it. But 152 meters of 0.35 copper and 0.06 gold. 32 meters of 0.91 copper and 0.12 gold. So the interesting thing about zone 2 is that it actually does have gold, whereas there's very little gold in any of the other deposits in the district. So for some reason, this one's just a little bit different. So we did drill one deep hole under zone 2 in the fall and one deep hole under zone 1. We're kind of swinging for the fences, right? Like, let's drill under the best area and cross our fingers. And we weren't, we did hit copper, but it wasn't what we were hoping, right? So
Any downhole geophysics on those deep holes that you might use,
no,
or wedge off, or anything like that, or
yeah,
just no?
no, we haven't done anything like that yet.
Okay.
But I mean, downhole IP might be a possibility.
If
But
you're 20 meters away, 50 meters away from something hot, you'd want to know, eh?
yeah, yeah, but you can see that there's like around zone 1, there's hardly any drilling on either
Yeah.
side.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so we've got IP and now really good mag over this whole area. So what we want to do is kind of step out and look for something bigger. I mean, these are interesting small deposits, but they're in the tens of millions of tons.
Yep.
They're not hundreds of millions of tons, which is what we want, right? So we need to step back a bit and find something bigger, more similar to Valley or to Lornex, one of those giant deposits. Um, but we're in the right rocks.
Chalcocite and bornite too. High grade copper minerals there, right?
Yeah, no, the metallurgy. I mean, we've done some test work on the metallurgy, and it's fantastic, right?
Yeah.
And it even suggests the possibility of maybe with the chalcocite of leaching,
Yeah.
solvent extraction, electrowinning type operations. So this is just one cross section
And
through.
supergene too. Any sense of oxidation?
No, it's not. It seems to be primary chalcocite. Yeah, I
Cool.
mean we get it even in the deepest holes, right? We get chalcocite
Wow.
and bornite together, so it seems to be primary chalcocite and quite coarse grained. And so here's some of the metallurgical testing that we've done. Can produce almost 40% copper recovery with
Yeah.
silver, right? Without complicated processing. So that's one of the hallmarks of the Hunter Valley is really good metallurgy, right? Very rich in bornite, and we even have more. Chalcocite's even better than bornite when it comes to recoveries often. So yeah, so it's great. So this is one of the better intercepts or sections that we've drilled through the zone, 0.29 over 100 meters, and then 0.65 over 95 meters right under it. And then we drilled in the fall and drilled
Wow.
underneath that one, and we didn't get great results. So maybe we got to go north, maybe we got to go south, maybe we got to go to the west or the east. I mean,
Yeah.
it's only
At
one hole.
at that point, and you're below the bottom of a pit at that point, and the structural stuff that could be going on down there. Who knows? Good for you for
Yeah,
taking a swing at it, I guess.
yeah,
Hey.
yeah. Well, I mean, Wayne Gretzky said you don't score on 100% of the shots you don't take, so you gotta drill, right? So
What about collaring on around the fault and coming a little more cheeky down the throat or something rather than? perpendicular?
Yeah, we're gonna look at all those kind of things. I mean, we don't have a lot of drilling out to the east side here, so that's
Yeah.
one option. Also don't have a lot of drilling close to surface, so we could bring it close to surface quite easily. But we need to figure out which way is it getting better? Is it getting better at depth? You know, to the north, to the south,
Yeah.
you know, to the
Yeah.
sides. We need to do this bit more of this vectoring, right?
Well, and that's one of the things that I always see, like all the holes are the same angle. And then I hear about stories where, oh, and then we changed our angle and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, couldn't we have done that at year 5 rather than year 15, maybe, guys? Like one hole coming from the, please. But
Yeah.
not being a
Well, and
geologist, I have a little bit less of a hard time with making cardinal stins like that or whatever it might be.
well, and yeah, so that I mean, this is a subvertical structure, right? And in some places, it's actually dipping slightly to the east. We could have drilled from
Yeah.
the other side, and we probably should drill a few from the other side to see what's going on over there. But we're going to take a really close look at the IP and the mag, and come up with some other targets
Well,
after.
and one of the good things again about MT is structure. It's really good for seeing deep with pretty reasonable. It's good for tracking contacts and stuff, and you can overlay it with seismic as well.
Hmm.
There's a Geoscience BC research article. Somebody they combined MT, seismic, and geological mapping to make some really neat cartoony diagrams, and just beautiful work. And I see that. Why isn't that a standard
Yeah,
tool and technique? Whatever.
yeah. Well, I mean, as you know, the market doesn't get too excited about MT surveys, right? So, you know, you're almost forced to try and keep drilling and keep getting hits, right? So,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
understood.
but yeah, we are going to step back and do a little bit more of this um, kind of stuff. So this is zone two. You can see the really coarse chalcocite here in this drill hole in the upper right,
Beautiful.
and here as well, right? So chalcocite bornite mixed together with potassic alteration. This is beautiful, beautiful looking mineralization that was running. And you know, the other thing is that we went into this right after Kodiak had their discovery, not too far away at the gate zone, and so you know they drilled under some relatively, you know, sort of moderate, you know, average to moderate low grade copper results and got a real, you know, series of killer holes underneath there. So we're getting the same, you know, we're getting good mineralization close to surface. Let's take a swing and drill underneath it and see what we get, right? And you know, you don't always get lucky. So so again, here's zone two. You can see it's fairly linear, but there's not a lot of drilling out to the sides, and maybe there's a chance that,
Wow.
and we're going to look at it. You know, we're going to look at the chance that there might be some other IP or magnetic features out there that we've missed that haven't been tested, right?
Well,
So
look at that 1702. That intercept,
yeah,
middle of nowhere, Mike,
yeah, 4.4% copper over 5 meters. Yeah,
and
so that's cool.
nothing, right?
Yeah.
Like, so it's really hard to chase something like that. But then, because it looks like it's at a fair depth too. So
Yeah. So the other thing you can see on this map is the outcrops are mapped here, this sort of pale pink,
yeah,
and
nice.
there's a few kind of along the creek, but everywhere where we drilled, it was based on you know, sort of IP and soil sampling and things like that. So there is, you know, there's really not much indication of this mineralization on surface. Like these rocks out to the side are, you know, are just kind of granite, right? And so,
Yeah.
you know, there's so many places that are covered out here that we need to be able to see through underneath that glacial till.
Passive geochem is another technique that Geoscience BC has done some academic stuff on, and soil gas, hydrocarbons. I don't know if
Mhm.
that's legit, but there's a bunch of different MTs of passive geophysics, and there's also this passive geochem stuff that you can do, kind of esoteric stuff. But who's your audience, right? Is it tech, or is it the junior mining stock market? Um,
Yeah, and you know, I mean, we're gonna try, you know, more soil sampling and more methods like that. You know, I mean, it's not a research project; it's an exploration project. So we don't want to
that's
go too far down paths that don't lead us anywhere. But yeah, there's definitely things that we can do, and we're gonna try passive seismic this
yeah,
summer because it's basically it's really cheap,
yeah,
and it gives you a sense of how deep the overburden is. Because
yep,
you know we did drill one hole, you know, well away from here, but we drilled one hole and got 600 feet of gravel. right? And we're drilling an IP anomaly, and so we don't want to do that,
No,
right?
can't do that.
So where it seems like the gravel changes thickness quite quickly. So where can we drill the least amount of till and gravel and the most amount of rock, right?
Good work. Good work.
So I'll just quickly run you through kind of where we're at with our caribou project. So we really have two sort of centers of gravity: the Highland Valley and the 100 Mile House caribou area, which is about 2 hours north of Kamloops here where I am. So again, we've been focused in this area for about 15 years.
Yep.
Dave Bland has done a magnificent job of acquiring properties. So we've got in light blue here our claims: the Hawk, Silver Boss, Hen, RTL, Fox, and then Black Riders. So that's a pretty good sized piece of ground. We're in with some pretty good company up here. So here's the Gibraltar mine, which is a copper mine. Mount Poly, copper gold, alkalic porphyry. This is the Wood Jam project, consolidated Wood Jam, which was financed most recently by Goldfields. This is Teck in the pink. And this yellow ground here is Freeport. And then this big pink block here is Core Mining, or now called Caris.
Yeah.
So they're looking for the argillite hosted gold, and then Spanish Mountain gold, and then you keep going up the belt, and you get to Barkerville, right? So it's a good place to be. Again, it's mining country, and it's an easy place to work. Lots of roads and
That
well
land that land package that Core put together and then flipped into a new vehicle too, like 1,000 square kilometers or something like this.
Yeah, it's a big block. Yeah.
Okay. Where do you start?
Yeah. So really the important thing here. So this belt here with the core, the pink, the yellow, and the purple is the Caribou Gold Belt. This is this argillite hosted quartz gold veins, right? Like Spanish Mountain Gold and the
Yep.
QR deposit, and that goes across through our RDL property, and we have some gold anomalies in there that are worthy of follow up. Then when you go between this dashed line and this is the porphyry belt, the Quesnel
Yeah.
Trough, which has both calcalcalic, which are usually copper moly deposits, and the copper gold porphyries like Mount Poly,
Wow.
right, that are associated with more alkalic rocks, less quartz, and so that's you know again, it's a good sort of it's a good belt to be in. So we kind of transect that whole belt with this package, and then our Fox tungsten is over on the east side in older rocks. They're more typical of sort of it's mostly sedimentary rocks over there. So those are our main projects up there. Fox is tungsten, Silver Boss is copper moly gold. So Boss Mountain was
Yep.
was the first moly mine in Canada,
Wow.
first primary big moly mine, and it was actually underground, and it was operated by Noranda, and it closed I think in 1983, and we completely surround that. I'll show you some of our targets there.
Nice.
And then we've got porphyry and skarn potential going across from there across Han. I mentioned the gold potential through the RDL, and then tungsten. So first, talking about the tungsten, again, there's no primary tungsten production in North America right now, and all of our supply comes from either Europe or China, which produces between 80 and 85% of the world's tungsten, and it has been deemed a strategic and critical element, just like rare earth elements. And there's three main reasons why tungsten is considered strategic and critical: supply risk because of the China factor, economic importance because it's critical to our industry, right?
Yeah.
The ability to make tools, the ability to drill, cut things, all those kind of things. It's a very tungsten is very heavy, it's very heat resistant, and
Yep.
it's essentially not possible to replace in those kind of. I mean, all tungsten or all cutting tools are tungsten carbide or tungsten hard metals, and I mean, unless you go to diamond bits, there's nothing harder, right? So that's why it's so important. And the price of tungsten isn't great right now. It's about $27 a kilo, which is sounds like a lot, but it has been $400 and higher. That's US. So, or sorry, $40 a kilo.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
right now it's about $27 a kilo.
Yeah.
So Dave discovered the tungsten with some prospectors down here at this discovery zone. I think in 2004, and since then has staked this entire district. Right. So this is a 10-kilometer district where we found tungsten in numerous different showings, and we've defined resources at just three of them. And so you can see the drill holes in kind of green on here, and so this is where our resource is. But we've also done quite a bit of drilling down here in this creek zone discovery and South Grid, and that's kind of the area that we'd like to build some 4301 resources down there. So our resource is 582,000 tons at 0.83% tungsten trioxide WO3 indicated, and then 565,000 tons of 1.2%. Those are those are some of the highest grades in the world
Yeah.
that are shown in resources, and on par with the Cantung mine in Northwest Territories that operated for decades. And the difference is that we've got a much better location here. This is essentially like having the Cantung district in southern BC with the same grades, the same geology. The geology is almost identical. So, we've kind of just scratched the surface here. Admittedly, we're about 1.1 million tons in all categories. It's not enough to go to an operating mine yet. We need to find more. So we've got plans for a significant amount of drilling to expand the resource, and we're probably going to be putting in an application very shortly for that, like in the order of 400 drill pads, a road, bulk sample, all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Really?
So, I mean, obviously we need to finance it as well,
Well,
but
it's good to have the plan and get it
yeah,
permitted. At least yep.
yeah. So we've got our resource modeler, the guy that did our resource estimate, and Dave Bland putting together a drill plan,
Yep.
for on the order of 300 or 400, and we think
Wow.
a threshold that we need to get to is about 3.5 million tons, so about triple where we're at about 1% WO3. That would put it into the category of, the highest grade resource in the world at a decent size.
And that would be 3.5 million tons of 1%. That's like 35,000 tons contain tungsten trioxide.
Yeah, you're the
I
mathematician,
Well,
right?
and the BCA, they don't want us to go to gross metal value, and I don't know what tungsten oxide would go to metal
So
anyway.
yeah, I mean, you have to consider recoveries
Yeah, there's a bunch of
and how much you're paid,
yep,
and all that sort of thing.
yep.
But this kind of grade, 1% tungsten trioxide is roughly equivalent at current prices to about 3% copper, or about 5 grams gold, right? So it's a small deposit, right? But if we were to get it up to 3.5 million tons, triple the size, it should be a significant resource worldwide, and certainly potential to develop a profitable mine.
Yep. Yep.
But we've had discussions internally about what we need to do. I mean, some of our shareholders are saying, just mine it, just start mining now, right, and figure out the details later. But again, we talked about this before. The cost of permitting, the cost of environmental studies, and so on. I don't think it justifies it at this size. I think we need to make it bigger before we go to that point.
Well, and there's the stories of the mines that had 5 years of reserve life for the last 20 years of production. Maybe, but
Yeah,
that's a wing and a prayer going into it with that. If RCF wants to underwrite it, that's their business. But
and I mentioned, I come from a mining family, and my dad always said, the mines he worked at Yellowknife, at the Giant Mine, he worked at Keno Hill. They rarely had more than a year or two of reserve in front of them. They were constantly exploring, and you could do it in those days, but you didn't need to have a 43-101,
yeah,
right? You
yeah,
just you just went into production, and and the engineers were confident that they could continue to find ore, right? So that's the difference between then and now, right?
Well, and there's a lot of heartbreaks on that road too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's,
Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, I mean, there's some very good examples in Canada recently where people went into production without a feasibility study, or or built a mine without a feasibility study, and everything went sideways. So anyway, so that's what our threshold, our goal is. So just an example of where we might look for those extra tons. So this is the BN deposit here, this heavy black circle,
yep,
and that's our highest grade resource. And the pink on here is the soil anomaly going to the southwest, and it's not downhill dispersion. The slope of the is kind of east west here, or sort of northeast southwest. So this is almost certainly related
yep,
to actual subcropping or near surface tungsten mineralization. And we've only drilled a few hundred meters of the strike length here, right? So we can continue for about a kilometer along strike, and there's limestone
yeah.
and schist above it, where this big heavy black arrow is, so we can drill through that into the skarn horizon underneath. So these are skarn deposits, and what that is, it's the contact mineralization between it's usually hosted in the limestone next to a granite, and that's the environment that we're in, right?
Yep.
Similar to Cantung. So the skarn is the contact zone between the granite and the limestone. And we've had some absolutely spectacular drill results. I think we had 18 meters of 4% tungsten trioxide in one drill hole here. Here's one picture of that stuff, 5 meters of 3% tungsten trioxide. So yeah, there's potential for some really good grades, and obviously to expand it. So we just need the drill plan. We got to get a bigger, a more extensive permit, and we've got to finance it, right? So right now we're putting together a plan for 15,000 meters of drilling and about 400 drill pads, and roughly 15,000 meters of drilling, and a road, about a 5 kilometer trail road, and a 10,000 bulk sample, because we'd like to be able to start doing metallurgical studies and marketing studies on the concentrate.
And the concentrates with this stuff, there's a video or a picture somewhere else I saw once of some of it going over a shaker table, and that's just beautiful as well, especially with the
Yeah.
UV light and all. But 400 pads, 15,000 meters. Whoa, what are we talking about? Pretty shallow holes here?
Yeah, so that's the beauty. That's the beauty of of the Fox deposits, are that they're flat lying, and
Oh,
the topography is relatively flat in there as well. And so all of our drilling has been till now has been sort of in the 25 to 100 meter range. So we can, literally, we can bang out two or three holes in a night in one
wow.
shift, right? And so we use a track mounted drill, and so they can, we don't need the helicopter to move it at between holes.
Yeah,
And so they'll drill 50 meters in one shift, and then they'll move and they'll start drilling again.
what a great program with
Yeah,
the
so
topography. And is that multi-power?
the drills are made by Multipower. Yeah, so we've used a group called Paycore Drilling that
Awesome.
has that the track mounted rigs. So yeah, they've done a good job.
And core, or you, yeah, this some of it's core, but
Core,
are
it's
you
all core
planning for
drilling.
core?
Yeah, it's all core drilling.
Okay, okay,
Yeah.
beautiful.
So yeah, so I mean, again, this was grassroots discovery, right? Like literally
Yeah,
prospectors out pulling moss off and walking around. So because scheelite, which is the main mineral here, it fluoresces bright white. You actually prospect at night. That's the best time to prospect, as long as you don't fall into a hole or off a cliff or something, right?
jeez.
You're wandering around in the dark with the black light, uh, looking for scheelite, because it's very hard to recognize in the daytime. So, and that's what it looks like in the dark when you use the black light.
And gravity geophysics at all too, or
We haven't done a lot of geophysics on it. We
hmm
might do some IP. Gravity might work. Yeah, again, the way this company's kind of started, it was like outcropping mineralization, just drill, right?
keep
We
it
don't have to
simple.
get too fancy. Soil sampling, drilling, prospecting.
Yep.
Um,
Yep. I like
yeah,
it.
yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, at some point we're going to have to get a little fancier with techniques. Yeah. So that's Fox. That's Fox. It's a great project.
Wow.
The other one that's sort of been hiding in the company, and we're going to try and do some work on it this year, is this Silver Boss project. So this central rectangular block here is owned by Glencore, which took over Noranda that operated the mine. So this mine is being reclaimed, and it's just on care and maintenance and environmental monitoring. So it was a combination underground open pit, fairly large scale mine, and our chairman Walter was actually the mine manager here
Wow.
back in the day when it was operating, so he knows it pretty well. So we staked all around, or Dave staked all around, or the company staked all around over the years, and has been doing small programs of soil sampling and mapping and prospecting again, and never drilled, right? So we've never drilled this thing, and we've done a little bit of IP, but really haven't done much else. The interesting thing here is that uh, the um, the central deposit is hosted in this and around this Cretaceous age stock. All the orange and pink that surrounds it, you can't really see it very well, but it's kind of a lighter pink. Everything else around there is older intrusive rocks, Jurassic Takamkane batholith,
Yeah.
and that's the host for some of the big porphyries a little bit to our northwest, including the one that Goldfields was in on. So we feel that there's potential for both copper and gold and moly porphyries here that would be in the same property, but different age sort of mineralization, different age rocks.
Yep.
So Silver Boss Shaft is one of the targets that we've got. It's kind of a vein breccia area in the older Takamkane batholith, Jurassic age. So it's up to 6% copper, 9 grams gold, 500 grams silver.
Yeah.
It was just a small sort of historic shaft. It wasn't. It's not a big thing, but there's a really nice IP anomaly associated with it. So that's obviously different than the Boss Mountain mine, which was just purely molybdenum. And then the Horse Trail, which is just to the south of there, has copper, moly, and gold with some pretty high values. Again, never been drilled. Nice IP chargeability feature that seems to be extending over from the mine. 10 Mile Creek is kind of down here, and that's more of a tungsten moly porphyry environment. And then Gus, which Charlie Gregg is quite interested in looking more at, is copper in kind of dioritic rocks with a really impressive 1.5 kilometer long soil anomaly, never been
Yeah.
drilled, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to do, the idea this summer is we're going to go in, we're going to fill in some IP in here. We're going to do a couple lines of IP across here. We're going to do some geological mapping and try and understand these targets better, and then hopefully drill in the fall. So that's Catalyst coming up.
Interesting little mountaintop there with Gus on the side and then the
Yeah,
shaft on the top. That's a
yeah, and it's
screaming for some more work.
it's kind of a brownfield site, so relatively
Yeah.
easy place to work. And yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
the other side of the valley with the creek running down from where the old Boss Mountain mine.
yeah. So the
Cool.
way I kind of look at this, if the Boss Mountain mine wasn't there and you had these anomalies for copper, gold, moly, tungsten, silver,
Yeah.
this would be a great project, right? On its own, right? Just as a grassroots project,
Yeah.
right? But there is a mine there, an old mine, that was pretty profitable. So, there's potential synergies there if we ever do find anything, that's possible to reuse that site.
Forest Service roads,
I mean, there's
not
actually a
really.
village. There's
Okay.
actually a village here, and a power line came into the town of Hendricks Lake, which was built for the mine over here.
Okay.
And then there's logging roads all over the place and bush roads, and so yeah, we can drive to this one as well. So
Cool.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, so that's kind of the company in a nutshell.
Well done.
Yeah, I think we've got a good team in place. We're looking for the right kind of deposits, the giant porphyries. We've got a bunch of catalysts coming up this year with field work and target refinement and drilling a little later in the summer and fall. We've got big plans for our tungsten project.
Yeah.
Um, I
Yeah.
think you and I have talked, Peter, that the tungsten doesn't necessarily fit in with the copper gold. So we're open to the idea of actually spinning it out and putting it in a different vehicle, maybe with some other tungsten assets, um, to sort of focus the company a little bit more than it is.
Well, and then as you have the next point too, the non-core stuff as well that's available for option.
Yeah,
That's an interesting 1-2 punch for, in a bull market. You want to be vending projects out if you're not able to work on them yourself.
yeah, yeah. So
I
we,
like it.
we are looking for partners on certainly on the non-core copper gold projects, the Hawk, the Heart, the Ham, the RDL. Um, we're
And
not
then
getting any
and
value
they're all
for it
caribou,
yet.
and they're all caribou too, right? Hot area. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
Yeah, and yeah, no, the market won't give you any value.
yeah, we've got enough other things going on that people, it's like third or fourth down on the list before they get to that,
It's
right?
just
So
another thing to spend money on at some point, Mr. Market says, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's kind of the company in a nutshell. Happy to
And
answer any other questions you might have.
well, and permits in place. So you mentioned the Fox tungsten, the planning for more permits. And can I just ask again about the Highland Valley stuff? What's how much work is permitted
So
there?
we have permits for about 120 drill pads on for 5 years on our Highland Valley project. So we just got that last year, so that's good till 2026.
Wow.
So lots of room for IP trails, trenching, and like I said, 120 drill pads. On the Fox, we have a permit for this year, but it needs to be renewed at the end of this year. So that's why we're getting ahead of it and planning to put in a much larger permit for next year that would include a road, right, a trail to get us up, so we can drill more easily up on top
Yeah.
by the main resource areas. Um,
How does that work if it's a would proceeding track mounted still for that stuff or
Probably, yeah. I mean, the beauty of the track mounted drills is they're pretty light touch on the ground, so you don't necessarily need a trail
yeah.
once the thing is on the ground. So it can go overland without disturbing the ground, and that's what we want to do is minimize the impact as much as we can. But you still got to get fuel and people and core back and forth. And so that's where we need at least a rough trail to get up and down. Like everything has been supported by until now by helicopter.
Yeah.
And clearly, a bulk sample, 10,000 ton bulk sample, is not going to be possible by
Uh,
helicopter,
yeah,
right?
different
So,
story. Yeah.
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 Um, so that's a big project that we're going to be trying to finance as well. Yeah.
And the technical expertise that goes along with designing and executing that bulk sample, you have enough in-house to take a run at that confidently?
Yeah, yeah, we do. I mean, that's a little bit specialized, work. I mean, but there's lots of contractors and consultants that we can hire for that. But
Yep.
we have a resource modeling geologist that's helping us lay out the drill plan,
Yep.
and his name is Pierre Dosatel. He works with a group called AGP Mining Consultants, and they have mining engineers in Vancouver, and so really this is a pretty small potatoes type of project for somebody like that, like laying out
Yep.
essentially a trench or a small
Yep.
open cut is pretty easy for somebody like that. Um, and then we also have Walter Sedgeworth in the company, who's a mining engineer and mine manager, and Dave Bland's a professional engineer as well. So yeah, and then I permitted a lot of this stuff when I was with the government. So
Yeah.
yeah, we can pull that off. It's pretty straightforward. And then we do actually have a permit for Silver Boss as well. So we have, I think, 11 drill holes permitted up there as well. So
Really?
we're good to go
And
with that. Yeah.
is Silver Boss part of the non-core collection or the core?
I mean, it hasn't really been worked, but I'd like to do some work on it before we vend it off.
Yeah.
So I'd
Yeah.
say it's kind of non-core right now. It's probably our third best
Yep.
project, but with some good drill results, it could become our best, right? So I don't really want to vend it
Yep.
off right away, but that's not to say that if the right deal came along, we wouldn't do something. Um,
And business development efforts to try and get these ones out the door.
yeah,
The different can of worms from planning and executing field programs, right?
yeah. So I'm on the phone every day talking to people I know that might be interested. We're talking to majors. We're talking to other juniors that are either looking. We're talking to shells.
Yep.
We're definitely beating the bushes trying to figure out who might be interested in coming in on this.
Yep. Good. Contact information maybe at the last one, or
Sure. No, I don't have that, but
okay, I'll add it after. It's great.
yeah, it's mcathro at happycreekminerals.com.
Yep.
Is the contact.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate you taking the time.
Well, thank you very much for your interest,
Pleasure.
Peter. Yeah. Bye for now.
Look forward to talking again. Goodbye.
Good. Thank you.